guys, how are you doing?
Oh, thanks, great. Nice to be here.
Yeah, great. So, for who don't know your band, would you mind to introduce yourself and give us some biographical hints?
Yeah, I'm Matthias, playing guitar in Gladenfold.
I'm Tuke, and I also play guitar.
And Paavali playing keyboards.
And yeah, Gladenfold was established quite some time ago already, I think almost 20 years ago, and we've been playing more or less from that, and we're mostly like operating in the areas of power metal and melodic death metal. So that's what is our business basically.
Yeah. Have you ever been in Pori before?
Actually, we played a show here
Once.
I think it was 2015. I think so. I don't now recall the place. I don't recall the place, but yeah, not the first time.
Okay, the second time.
Yes.
So you released your third album, Nemesis, last April.
Yes.
What can you tell about its genesis and lyrics?
Well, lyrics you said, or
In general.
in general.
Yeah.
We were trying to make an album that was a bit simpler than the one that came before that. It was quite complicated and a lot of different elements we were trying to mix, and this time we tried to then streamline it a bit and as much as possible something that would translate well to live as well. So that was kind of, and it turned out a little bit darker as well than the one before. The last one was a lot of melodic death metal, and this one even more so, I would say. Yeah, it has more power metal elements on the last one, and this time it's a bit more melodic.
Yeah, and then talking about the lyrics part, maybe we're not the best people to say about the lyrics. We need Esko here, but I think if Esko was here to put it in kind of one word or one phrase, I think self-reflection would be the way to put it. And I think it's somewhere there in more or less all of the songs. You have like kind of like two sides of, and the kind of the dark side of things. And
the lyrics ended up quite dark, and people asked a lot if it was due to, because it was written during the COVID pandemic and so on and so on. But to be fair, much of the music and the lyrics were written before that, in 2019-ish, and I think that there was just a lot of things going on in life that like showed up in the lyrics, and it was quite unrelated really to the more global
actually
situation.
It's one of the questions that I have asked to a lot of bands this year, and the last interview I did, I asked the band if the pandemic influenced, but they also had before the pandemic some of the lyrics and the music, so
it didn't really affect the way we wrote this album, but when we started really working on the material, it was a few months before actually when the pandemic hit, and then what happened? Yes, then we had to find a way how are we going to continue as a group and record stuff and so on and so on, and how the album eventually were put together. We basically worked on our own home studios and record stuff, and then sent tracks back and forth and asked feedback from each other. So in that way it was we recorded quite isolated, as everyone was like 2012. Yes.
Yeah, so basically the pandemic affected the kind of the technical side, how we kind of made the work with the album. Like it was actually at the same time it was kind of slow, but at the same time very kind of a creative way, because working at home and in each one
it's a different setting.
Home studios. I record a little part and then send it to like a WhatsApp, and hey, what do you guys think? And then it's like kind of like a different way. It takes time, but then I think we got most out of it.
Definitely.
But it was definitely already dark before we came to the songwriting. So
also the album cover is really nice. Who is the artist and what is the idea behind it?
Well, it's also related to the self-reflection. I guess the idea is basically that the album title is Nemesis. You are your own nemesis, and that's what the artwork basically tries to tell. And the guy who actually did the album cover is what was the name?
Felipe Machado Franco. He's done the reissues of the Blind Guardian albums.
Okay.
So when they redid all the vinyls and so on and so on. So he did all the album covers for that.
And he was from
Colombian guy.
Yeah.
I guess so. Yeah.
How did you get in touch with
He
him?
actually contacted us and asked if we were doing something in the future, then he would be up for it. And I think he
That's
did
cool.
that in 2019 or something.
Yeah.
And then we just left him a bit, maybe.
Yeah.
And then as we progressed, then
We asked and gave this kind of idea, and he was like immediately, okay, maybe we could do something like this.
and that was
So,
it was
yeah.
very much the final cover in the first couple of
Yeah.
versions.
Yeah, I
as
think
well.
we were quite happy with it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, really, it turned out great.
Yeah.
that's cool. Yeah.
Impressive.
Okay, so what does inspire you to write music?
Well, that's a
Difficult question.
It's a good and difficult question.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be anything, but for me nowadays I feel that for most important thing for me, if I want to make music, then I can do it together with people like the guys in the band. So I find that thing a motivational for me nowadays. Of course, you need to have a idea and then some other motivation, okay, to start with. But if you think the process of writing together, that's something I would like to focus on with this band, maybe with the next release, because this time we couldn't gather together and share ideas in the one room.
Yeah.
And you kind of miss that feeling and the ideas of that if you are just remotely working and sending messages to each other.
Yeah.
And best thing playing a band and making music is of course that you can do it together. So I think that's my motivation nowadays actually when it comes to making music.
For me, it's just listening to a lot of different music. I listen to many different genres, and then it kind of shows up in the songwriting process. And I don't really write that much music by myself, but then someone else comes with a song, and then I maybe put some elements in there of what I'm currently listening to or what I'm enjoying.
Yeah, Esko has been making basically most of our songs, but yeah, then we, especially for this latest album, also the previous one, we I've been Esko maybe has had the basic line of it, and then we add the
Your
flavor.
part. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, then I don't think we have anything it must be dark or some specific kind of way. I think that it's just what is happening in your life, and then kind of then you start doing something, and then the flow takes the lead.
So of course your influences as band is power and melodic death metal.
Yeah.
But for you, each one of you, what are the main influences? If you think when you start to play, why did you start? There was a artist in particular that.
Yeah, well, it all comes to the time when you're a teenager and get influenced by all those tracks, bands and tracks they composed and play. So for me, it was it was basically the bands that were hot back in the day, 20 years ago, like Sonata Arctica, Children of Bodom, the Finnish scene back in the day, basically.
Yeah.
And then at some point I got really into the progressive metal, so bands like Dream Theater was a big thing for me as well back in the day. So I think those bands are the ones, and of course Nightwish. I think the Nightwish was the gateway to metal for me back in the day, because I really remember when I heard Ocean Ball first time. So it really hit me.
Yeah, I can relate to your journey into music.
Yeah.
I could pretty much use the very same words that you had. To be honest.
But those same bands that we used to listen back in the day in Finland, at least.
Yeah, for me, I think I started out with a lot of the classics, like Metallica and stuff like that, which I listened to a lot when I was a teenager. And then I got into some power metal and some death metal and some this and that. And it wasn't really until I moved to Finland that I started getting into all of these, early 2000s and later 2000s, so Winter Sun and Children of Bodom, Nightwish, and so on and so on. But now it's also a very big part of my catalog, I'd say.
Nice. So tonight you are playing here in Pori, but this year you haven't played that much.
Not really, yeah.
Do you have something coming maybe next year more?
Hopefully, we haven't really nothing, to be honest, to settled yet. So as you might know, it's been really hard to. Everybody's now, after the pandemic thing has kind of like ended and shows are running like normally, all the places have been booked for this year. So we were really lucky that we got to play here at least, and there's some plans for next year, but nothing I could actually say at this point.
It seems that COVID is still affecting the scene.
Yeah, definitely.
It delayed all the gigs that were
postponed. And
so everything is a bit a mess. But let's hope that you get some gigs and during the summer festivals will be great. And
I really think so.
Trying.
And maybe also outside of Finland, it will be nice.
Yeah, that's our goal too. We have been playing a few shows in Baltic countries like a few years ago and so on. Actually, we just talked about that. It was like 3 years ago we played our last show outside Turku. We had played a couple of shows before the pandemic and after pandemic there. But it's really nice to just go out and play somewhere else.
Yeah.
Now that you can do it.
If you could tour with a band, open for a bigger band, which band would be? Hard question.
Yeah. Well, if I would have to choose that, if we would go headline to Europe, not headline, but there's a headline and playing in Europe, and we would open for that band. Maybe like a band like a Blind Guardian would be kind of interesting one to open. Or well, you can have your.
Yeah, I don't know. It's both like the ideal band to play with, or something that fits the band also, because there also be the childhood dream of like, I would want to play with, I don't know, Devin Townsend or something like that. But of course, for this band, I would also say Blind Guardian, or then we also like Brymiä, like this melodic death metal band from Finland. We like a lot. It's not that big of a band, but we would love to play with them for sure.
I was also I was about to mention Brymiä as well, because there's always like this kind of dream band that you would want to play with, that, and then what would kind of make sense and in what phase that bands are.
Yeah, I think
that would be like a quite nice.
We are operating in kind of same area that they are actually doing. Kind of like.
And we've been also playing a couple of gigs with Battle Beast back in the days.
Yeah.
Nice. So let's hope that maybe your dream to open to one of those bands will come true soon.
Sure.
Yeah, going out to Europe would be something that we are all been really waiting for. Let's see when that happens.
Yeah. So finger crossed for you.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Are you writing new music right now?
We were just discussing before actually coming here or coming to this interview in the table that we should start like a planning, like when we are releasing new music. We cannot really say anything at this point, but it's in a process actually. The main songwriter Esko has sent us some new ideas, and the idea is now that we actually could work on the ideas together, and not just that he finished one song and we rehearse and arrange it, but like he can give us a raw idea and then we can really like compose it together. So that's the way we think we are going to do.
So
and
next
go
step.
Next step.
At least there's something bubbling underneath the surface.
Exactly.
Okay, so we have still to wait for
sure.
new music, but you released just a new album, so there is not that
Yeah.
hurry. Okay, we have done with this interview. Thank you so much for your time. It was
Thanks.
a pleasure. Would you like to say something to your fans and our readers?
Go ahead and listen to the new album if you still haven't.
Yeah. And hopefully.
Let's see at the shows when the time
And yeah,
comes.
let's see in the shows wherever we are going to show up.
Exactly.
Check out their music.
Yeah.
Kiitos.